With me are now Professor Anthony Kila, Professor of Strategy and Development and Institute Director at the Commonwealth Institute of Advanced and Professional Studies. Professor David Aworawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos, as well as Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director, Enough is Enough. Well, thank you very much. Good to see you again this week. We've had two guests, Senator Ireti Kingibe, talking about governance, the politics of the Senate, and how, as the person representing the Federal Capital Territory, key decisions are taken by the Senate of the Federal Republic, and the senator representing the Federal Republic is excluded. She also talked about women representation and what we can do to make sure that women, who constitute about 50% of the Nigerian population, are better represented, in addition to other issues. And also, the Achike Chude, who has been part of this panel again and again, talking about international issues. The U.S. debate between Biden and Trump, the crisis in Kenya over the finance bill, and also the snap elections that began in France today. First round, next round, July 7th. Yemi Adamolekun, let me start with you.
Right. I like what Senator Kingibe said. I think 2 points that she made that I thought were interesting. One, she said there's a direct correlation between countries that have an affirmative action bill provision of some sort and number of women representation in government. And I like the example she gave about wards, when you say bring 3 representatives and men are brought, but once you say they must include 1 woman, and then suddenly women that you couldn't find before are now surface. So certainly, the affirmative action was tried last year under the 9th Assembly, didn't scale through, but it's in the process. There are a number of commitments from members of the Senate and House of Rep that this time around that it would get the required support that it needs. But it does say a lot that of 109 senators, we only have 4 that are women. And the other bit is the question you asked her about governance, and her very clear statement around, doesn't matter what your intentions are, people will only judge you by your results. And the results of the Tinubu administration has been poor, to put it very bluntly, as she said. And that is measured in the impact in the lives of Nigerians. And very simply, yes, as people said, but it's still the same APC government. Yeah, Buhari was in power for 8 years, but it's still the same APC government. In some cases, still the same people who are involved. And 1 year later, as she also said, she said she's been tweaking her team since she came into office for maximum efficiency. 1 year later, the Tinubu administration, not one person, we're still investigating better. I think she's probably the only person that anything has happened to. But 1 year later, there's been no change. Oh, am I missing something, gentlemen? I'm trying to crack my brain, but
no,
have we changed anything? Okay, we haven't changed anything. So the formula is still the same, and we're expecting magic to happen. And I agreed with her point that it doesn't really work that way. And on the challenges she's having with the Minister of the FCT, quite frankly, she's not the only one, unfortunately. So I think it's true. So it's not personal in that regard. It's just that the minister...
Who is in the same company with her?
Who is in the same company with her?
You said she's not the only one having problems with Wike. She's not the
only one. Well, ask the people that he's bulldozed.
That you have in mind.
Ask the people that he's bulldozed their homes without following due process. Or ask what's it called? Thank you. I was trying to look for people in Abuja. We can go to Rivers as well. Ask the states that he refuses to leave behind, even though he's no longer the sitting governor. And she's saying, let me help Ajia. Ajia didn't say this, so let's be clear. But let me say this. Minister Wike, well, you say he speaks, so maybe he'll answer me. Well, anyway. Minister Wike, Rivers people have a new governor. His name is Sim Fubara. In FCT, you have people there that need attention. Fires happening, they said there's no water, health and education. Perhaps, just a suggestion, perhaps you might want to turn your attention away from Rivers, since you no longer have any legal standing in Rivers State, and perhaps turn your attention to the people of the FCT, who the senator is saying that They are calling her to do some work, and you are not particularly interested in their affairs because you're a bit too busy in Rivers. That's Hajia. And then French elections, I'll leave that for the gentleman. What else? Joe Biden. I think what's been quite interesting with Joe Biden, from Nancy Pelosi to Barack Obama, sort of clarity around, yeah, it was a bad debate. But given the options that we have, we're still solidly behind Joe Biden. And unfortunately, that's really what the American election has really boiled down to. The two candidates are not great for different reasons. Trump for obvious reasons, convicted felon, just ready to burn down anything and everything. And really, for where we are in the world and the kind of leadership and direction that America has always provided, Trump, for me, is not the face of that by any stretch of the imagination. And on the other side, in some ways, neither is Biden. But I think there's still some clarity of thought, some clarity in terms of responsibility, not only as an individual, but as the United States of America, that I think Biden has in greater measure than Trump has. As someone said, they wish there could be a third candidate they would vote for. But just as we say in Nigeria, you have, unfortunately, America is also modeling what happens in quite a number of countries at this point in time. You have two bad candidates. And so citizens have to make a choice. And so what the Democrats are trying to do, be like, you know what, as we say in Nigeria, just hold your nose and don't analyze Biden too much. Just think of what will happen if you choose to sit this out and Trump becomes the next president of the United States. It does, I mean, at this point, it really then is not about, well, it's about policies and posture in a way, because the Democrats and Republicans are quite clear in their approach to policy, in their approach to governance, in a way that our parties are not. And so it's really along the lines of, are we just doing what being a Democrat stands for versus what, in a sense, not necessarily what Republicans stand for, but what Trump stands for. What the Democrats would be struggling with is a part of the population that think the Democrats have gone too far in their, there's an English word for this thing, liberality, if that's such a word. And so if you can wake up today and decide you want to be called a cat, everybody should call you a cat. If you want to wake up tomorrow and say, I feel like I'm a cow, people should call you a cow. And so today you're a he, you should be addressed as a he. Tomorrow you're a she, you should be addressed as a she. And so the fact that the Democrats have just gone way too far, unfortunately, it was Obama that kind of opened the door for that, and it's just gone crazy. So there are some people who are struggling with that and what bringing Biden back into office means. So that's quite interesting. And Trump seems to be a bit saner in that regard. But is that enough in terms of what it means to be president of the United States? And then lastly, what else? I think
France, Kenya.
Oh, Kenya, my God. I've left France to the gentleman. I must speak about Kenya. Kenya is really very interesting. I think I saw Fowles was on the morning show, I think 2 or so days ago, talking about the parallels to NSAS. And it's interesting to watch. It's interesting to I've seen it would have been interesting to see if Ruto hadn't come out very forcefully and then had to retreat. But the new demand now is that he must go. But as we've seen from Egypt to I don't know where else, if Ruto leaves, doesn't his VP become president? And if his VP becomes president, what then structurally changes in terms of governance in Kenya, which is what the issue is? There's a viral video of an MP, female MP speaking, and I think one of the issues that she addressed that I thought was really important, that we see in Nigeria a lot when there are issues. Our National Assembly quickly goes on recess. And her point was that we're here to represent the people. Why are we going on a break where our citizens our constituents are talking about issues? So this week is planned. I mean, there's a whole schedule of what's supposed to happen starting tomorrow. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out and how the government
You're very right. The female MP, you know, she saw far ahead of our own colleagues who are even better advantage.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed.
Professor Kila.
That's a good play of words. Yeah, indeed.
Well, let me start from Kenya so we keep the thread going. I think the Kenya lesson, I think for most people in Africa, is that people should not give up. This idea in which people, get comfortable, actually they surrender to reality. It's a bad thing for young people. Young people should believe that they can change the world, that their voices can be heard. That is one lesson coming from Kenya. And I do believe that the request for Ruto to go is a good request. whether they succeed or not, let's leave that. We'll get to that bridge when we get there. It's a good thing for them to ask for it because the way the president has handled the matter shows incompetence and disconnection. Incompetence and disconnection in his agreeing to something that will wreck the country. We were here in the studio about 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago when I said that kind of demand smells of trouble. And, proposing it didn't make sense. He was wrong in the way we reacted initially to the protesters. So when you're wrong clearly like that, it's a good lesson for history, not a personal penalty for him to, if not go, at least be strongly requested to go, because it will teach other people that when you're in power, you need to act with care. And if the VP takes over, it doesn't matter. Someone just pay the price. It will go in history that the Kenyan president was forced out of office because of tax reform and because of the way he handled protests.
Is that what we're after, though?
It's part of it.
One, I agree with you, and I agree 100% that it would send a very strong signal from a country like Kenya, a strong democracy.
Yes.
But the question for me is that from Nigeria to Kenya to Ghana to South Africa, the issues and the agitation has always been about the political structure, the lack of accountability to citizens. So is that then to say that because and it's very valid in that sense, if we're saying that because they were able to accomplish that, that the VP then comes in very much aware that this could be me, in a sense.
Yes.
And because of that, now sits up and is ready to do business in terms of accountability.
Yes.
Fair point.
That's the idea. So because of that, he would then act very well. That's the idea. And this idea of the taxing, people, the tax rebellion is as old as humanity. The Jewish zealots, 1500 AD, I think, they were already fighting for tax reform. It was a very serious thing. Jesus Christ himself, if true, was brought about the tax matter itself when he said, give unto Caesar that which is unto Caesar. So the taxing is a serious issue, where people pay tax or where they don't. So I think government should take it serious. And I think Kenya sent a lesson. And I think Nigerian youth should watch what is going there very carefully. Certainly. In terms of consciousness and organization. But by the same token, the political class should watch it very well in terms of being careful of what they propose to people. Because, let's go Bob Marley here. You push people to the wall at some point, they come back at you. And, so we need to think that. The USA, very bad situation the United States of America has found itself. Biden went to that debate to show one thing and one thing only, that he's capable, fit to rule, is capable of governing, and he failed abysmally. There's no other way to put it. I'm surprised what he did later when he went to Virginia. Where did he go after that? Something must have happened in that room. Maybe they need to investigate it. I'm surprised there's no conspiracy theory that they probably blew something in his face. Maybe they tied his tongue. The people of Oshogbo should be checked, because I know there's something they do.
Why Oshogbo people?
There's something to look out. Maybe because I don't know. But
you can be sued for group libel.
No, that's
what are you trying to suggest?
Oshogbo is from a play I'm writing. It's the name of a country. Now, that is on one side. But there is a bigger picture there that we need to look at, because you see, there are some people, the pro-Biden people, who are saying that there are two things at the table according to them. Choosing between the lesser evil. So we have to go with Biden, they say. Then the other people who say Biden is a good man, so let's take him. We have to be careful about here, because, this thing said presidents, and I am more for president. Let's look at that. I'm always worried about what happens from one accident. The job of a candidate is to prove that he can govern. Not trust, not faith, not just looking at its past. He needs to prove that today, from today on, I can persuade, or rather, the way to do it is by persuading people to do it. And these debates are very crucial for the rest of the world, especially for those countries where some candidates decide not to participate in debates. Debates are one of those few moments where people, the voters, get a chance to put side by side the two products or two proposals and choose one. So debate continues to be a fundamental issue in politics, I argue. And Biden failed that debate. The other one near him, the orange-headed one, that was just a con artist, a liar, a very occult person. And it's a bad place for America. So America has the choice, apparently they have a choice to choose between a weak good man and a strong bad man. They need to make a choice. But I don't believe that is so. There are two elements people are leaving out. I think that the Democratic Party should recall Biden and change their candidate. I also think that Biden himself should come out with a big speech called for love of nation and love of democracy. He should say, I believe in my heart I can do this job, but because of the concerns people are saying, I am going to withdraw my candidacy. And I have hope that there are other people in this country that can do it. And then he should then call a coalition of Americans against Trump. That is idealism. That is true. That is what proves that the good Joe Biden is not just another ambitious git. That is on one side. But there's another side that I don't understand why analysts across the world have been so indulgent of American voters. Everybody keeps saying Trump is manipulating people. Americans that are daft. We need to, at some point, start to look at voters and their responsibility itself. How a country that is so strong and so developed, as we call it, how can people, millions of them, follow a man who's a convicted felon, a known aggressor, a liar, somebody who's had 5 brackets many times, somebody who's done a lot of fraudulent things, not opinion, facts that are there, and he still have vote, and he still have people following him. I think we need to start looking at voters as well. Now, politicians are bad as they are, but what about the people? In some countries, they say they're too poor, too illiterate. These ones are not so poor. So at some point, this responsibility, if we want to be deep about it, we need to start rethinking democracy in reality, and nobody's talking about that. One last thing about the American thing. There is something wrong with the Democratic Party, that party of Jefferson. There's something wrong that people cannot get together and say, Uncle Joe, it's time to drop it. Come behind and support. Why should it be him? Why should it be only him in a country of hundreds of millions of people? There is something wrong. This idea that he's the only one that can beat Trump, it is a wrong thing. And I think it's a failure of the leadership of the Democratic Party. It's getting too deferential.
Well, the Democrats will meet at their convention in August, and it looks like they will confirm Joe Biden.
It looks so, and it's a bad
candidate.
thing for democracy.
Professor Aworawo.
Maybe I should also begin with the US. Because American elections are not important only for Americans.
Yeah.
They're important for the entire world. Whoever emerges, for instance, between Biden and Trump will have a huge impact on what happens in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, between Israel and the Palestinians, in fact, all over the world. And one of the things that amazes me most in all of this is just what Professor Kila just drew attention to. How come someone like Trump has such a large followership across the US? The only conclusion I can draw from that is that high pedestal we place Americans, they don't belong there. A country that belongs there should not have someone like Trump, amass so large number of people across the United States, people who say they will die for him, people who are ready to strip themselves and do, strange things. If in any country you always have some, fringe characters. But when they are just a few hundred people, you just don't bother. But that you're talking about tens of millions, that is one thing that, really amazes me about the America we thought we knew and the America that is unfolding. That is one. Yes, the other side is, Biden. When the lawyer was speaking, Chike was speaking, he said when Obama, debated with Romney in the first debate, Obama didn't do well. He came up strongly later in subsequent debates. I do not see that happening in the case of Biden, because Obama, let's contextualize. Obama's, incapacity in that first debate was just that he didn't get a few things right. Biden's own is more fundamental because, he couldn't remember a lot of things because of age and all that. That is not what anybody is going to change. What is going to change? So if you debate 10 times, I'm sure almost the same result. Even when you coach and coach and coach and coach and coach him, and then it comes, it will almost be the same result. The ideal thing really, except that in politics, ideals are really difficult to come by, will have been that the Democrats will change Biden. Bring someone younger, more vibrant, and then things can then, move on. But it seems just like Dr. Batia said, they will confirm Biden. It will not be a case of between the rock and the hard place.
Well, let's hope they don't listen to Dr. If he's the one advising them.
For Americans. But who says they can't settle for someone else? Because even the polls are showing that the individuals who will likely replace Biden, if they choose to change him, will do far better against Trump. In fact, 3-4 front runners will all beat Trump flat. With a large, wide margin. Why should that be discountenanced by the Democrats? And leave Biden, who obviously is a good man. I like him. But at some point, age takes a toll. And that is what we are seeing. Anyway, let's see how things shape up in the United States. But whatever happens, Americans should know that settling for Trump will be a disaster, not only for the U.S., but for the entire...
Professor Aworawo, if we are making heavy weather out of age, Joe Biden's age, what is the difference between the octogenarian and the septuagenarian?
Well,
the difference is just 4 years, right?
Nature is also another thing. I have a professor, my supervisor is 82. When he comes to my office, he runs up the stairs, runs down. People are younger than I'm still in service, who are just 70, can't climb how he climbs. So it's not just the number.
By itself,
but some are just blessed. They are stronger. You are old, but it doesn't reflect. If you are spoken well, nobody will talk about age. If you are spoken well that day, if you articulate,
he wasn't excluded ab initio for his age. He was given a chance to prove that age is not a problem.
Exactly.
And he failed that test.
That is just.
But he backed up. Well, it must be said, somehow he bounced back in Virginia. Where did he go to? That I don't understand. But you see, my concern is this. I'm sorry I'm getting it. People say good days and bad days. What if the bad day comes the day he goes to Putin? That is the concern. What if that bad day happens to be the next time he's at a very international conference? Well, they didn't cancel the debate.
They couldn't. It wasn't within their
Well, they wouldn't cancel an international one as well. I don't think we should take that risk.
Let me say a few things about that. But of course, between him and Trump,
that's the thing.
You will just say, let Biden be voted.
Yeah.
Trump is an option that would be...
Let's abide by Biden.
Exactly. Then Kenya. I'm really disappointed at how Ruto has
turned out.
Because
you liked him, but go ahead.
Yes, he was supposed to be a son of nobody who became somebody.
I warned you then.
It seemed he had just forgotten where he came from.
Why do we always think people who, because if your context matters, your exposure matters, your upbringing matters, and then there's also the trappings of power. You also don't make decisions he wouldn't have made that decision by himself. He would just have said, oh, let's just, and then that tells you what happened between his first dismissal and then the second statement, where it then makes the statement about we must listen to the citizens, we're here for the citizens.
Yes. He was listening too much to IMF.
Yes, that is it. You have to look. Do you know that
that is a terrible thing.
Do you know if our president listens to IMF, we will buy fuel for 1,200. Then comes the time you tell IMF, I've heard you. Please, what you have said, I've listened to you. But I have to domesticate your advice. I have to look my social environment.
And that is part of why I want him to go. So that the next president will tell IMF, look at what happened to Ruto. Do not Rutorize me. That is what I'm hoping for.
Why were they using live bullets? 20 people died.
What do you mean, why are they using
23.
Yes, why were they using live? Why?
He has given up on us. He has
not what we do here too.
No, he has given up on us.
I'm asking.
Kenya is meant to be different.
No. It is shocking to me that they were just shooting down people.
Yeah.
But I guess,
for a Ruto who came from the,
but
you know where he came from?
For a Ruto, number one, we said this thing during NSAS. Our police structures are not set up to protect citizens. They're set up to protect the state.
No, but that shouldn't be.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you, but I'm saying that understand. So when you say why should, but that's the way power responds to its citizens.
We should condemn it.
We should
never
happen.
It should never ever happen again.
Yeah.
And then finally, our sister Ireti and
I haven't talked about France, or neither of you.
No, fine. We'll go there.
Okay.
Oh, not finally. I'll say a few things about France. What women and representation, I'm just surprised that even though the government, it's clear, the provisions are there, successive governments don't, keep to it. Representation, it's there, it's clear. When they are campaigning, they say all sorts of the women, this, and bad. After getting to power, we see a different thing. Well, we just as we have said, the more women we have, the more representation we have, youths, women and the rest, the demographics, the better. But the other thing to also add is that something that is given can be taken away. So more women should also, aspire. And more women should vote for women. If they are 50-50, why do we have so many men?
And
when women come out to come and...
President Aworawo is being diplomatic.
Women don't vote for them.
Really think.
Yes, I mean, why is
Let
it
me
so?
go back to it and say it my way, in an unpopular way. I think I am more feminist than most women, but I am against, on principle, this idea of affirmative politics. It is not a good thing. If women want to get into power, they should organize themselves, vote for women, demand that these are the people we like, based on programs. This tokenism of women, it doesn't work. It's not.
What do you mean it doesn't work?
It is not good for good women.
It
is not good for good women. And in power, Nigerian women in power have not distinguished themselves. It means that there is no case in this country to prove that when women get there, they perform better or they steal less. They're just like the same.
What do you mean?
Because in this administration...
Okay, maybe this administration.
Okay,
so be specific. If you're talking about this administration,
that's what we have in front of us. Okay. There is no case, there is no empirical case to prove that somebody will be a better minister because she's a woman.
Well, but affirmative action has worked in South Africa, in Senegal, in Rwanda.
When you say it has worked, it has brought more people into parliament.
Yeah.
If you say by affirmative action, we want in this room nobody taller than 4 feet, we're going to get them. It just means they will come out from wherever they are. That is the point. So my point is...
Why is there higher standards for women in politics or women in government than there are for the men? Because that's what I hear what you're saying.
That is not what I'm saying at all.
So you're saying that the fact that we haven't had empirical evidence about more women...
There is no empirical evidence.
There's actually... he's talking about Nigeria.
It has been proven that the more inclusive a government is, all the demographics in present, the better that government is.
For inclusive, yes, but what I'm saying, there is no empirical evidence to prove that women perform better than men in office. My point is this.
But who is saying that?
Exactly.
That is enough. So based on that, you do not need affirmative action. Let women go and organize themselves. I tell my daughters... No, I say this. I tell my daughters not to buy from places, not to bank with banks that are no women on board. They learn from an early age to check that thing out. I think that's what we need people to do. Not to stay up there, get us in. There's something about it.
Okay, that is this old argument about equity and equality.
Yes, that's the point.
The theoretical point is about making sure that half of the population is not unduly marginalized as a result of religion, culture, or the dominance of patriarchy.
But the way to do it is not by
legislation.
It is a clear thing. My argument is that should not be by legislation, but by persuasion.
But in countries where they have legislated it,
we've seen results.
That's I was against it in those countries. It doesn't work. It does help. It's just because we have more of them. It does not. There's no empirical evidence that it has contributed to anything in particular.
What I'm saying, okay, so let's just to close this out.
Yes.
We're not debating because we don't have the data. In fact, so there's no point arguing with that data. Women lead differently.
Yes.
Inclusive governments or inclusive whatever it is produce better results. Religion, culture, patriarchy has excluded women. So this one that you're saying about your daughters, we don't have the luxury of time to change how society thinks until...
We should make time.
No. What I'm saying, the luxury of time is that it's a process if we leave it to that.
Yes.
And that's why affirmative action has been used to produce the results that we have in having more women. We can then have a separate debate about the fact that you now have more women. Are there better outcomes or what are the outcomes? But ab initio, the point is that. Okay. Shikina.
I don't think we can exhaust the argument.
It's clear. I said two things. First, I said more representation. I also said women should come out more. It addresses it. One end and then the other end.
Let's leave it. It's a cultural debate that we cannot exhaust here. So
France is left untouched. If you give me 2 minutes, let me just talk about France.
France. Yes. Okay, sure. The far right. Marine Le Pen and Boulard and their people.
Beyond that, there is some parallel between even Ruto and
Macron.
Yes, and Macron.
I did not fall for Macron.
Reforms to some extreme. When you want to carry out reforms, you also, I was talking about the social context. How many presidents in recent memory have had as many protests as we have had under Macron? It's difficult to figure out. his reforms, he tries to do them to the extreme.
Yeah.
And then you have protests. There was one that went on for over a year, Of course, the far right are now gaining this. But I don't think that the far right would do significantly better than they've been doing. The Le Pen Senior, Marie Le Pen Junior, they will have their 12, 15, 18%, and it ends there. And they also have difficulty getting other parties to form an alliance with them. The far right and the far left cannot see. So the middle seems to, triumph. So I'm sure, Macron will return, hopefully, expectedly more powerful. To be able to carry out, its reforms as he wants them to be, not with what he's having now. That it seems that his government is shaky. People are now tilting more to the right or to the left. But let's see how things turn.
Macron's snap election,
yes,
incidentally, has also been described as a gamble.
A gamble,
ahead of the 2027 elections in France. But let's see how it works out Together for the Republic, which is the party that he leads. Let's take a local topic. The federal government has launched an investigation into the alleged unauthorized sale of national identification number, following a disclosure that the personal data of Nigerians were available online for a fee. That information has sparked widespread concern over the need to protect individual privacy rights as well as potential economic consequences. Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Bosun Tijani, confirmed that he had initiated discussions with the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, on the matter. The Ministry of Interior currently oversees the National Identity Management Commission, the body responsible for managing Nigeria's identity database. Well, for as little as 100 naira, you can buy anybody's data online, we're told, by some platforms that are available online. And if you buy NIN, that's identity number, you can get a phone, at least. You can even give instructions to Boko Haram. The Boko Haram fighters that seem to have, been on a fresh offensive in Borno State. So, Professor Aworawo, well, we've been talking about identity numbers and all that. It looks like even your bank account numbers are not safe in Nigeria because even BVNs, bank verification numbers, have been verified. I know you may not have a lot of money in your own bank account since university lecturers are always asking for salary.
They have money, they just want more.
Are you sure?
They just want more.
Okay. Professor Aworawo, defend yourself.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. If you are a university teacher, you will not. When you see mega box, he's not among university teachers. You have to have mega box.
You have to wear bow tie to have that.
But speaking seriously, it's a serious issue. We have had countries where identity numbers like this were stolen, even in the US, and the consequences were not always pleasant. People always lose a whole lot when that happens. In fact, there is a case now of a medical doctor whose phone was stolen, and the person who stole the phone used the phone to collect over $500,000, and the bank is now saying that, well, you will come and pay. We investigated and we have established that yes, your phone was stolen, but your phone was stolen, and then the person used the thing to borrow money, and then you come. That gives you an idea of what happens when identity numbers are in the wrong hands. In addition to that, security. That one of the reasons why everybody, these numbers, government take it very seriously. Even communication companies were sanctioned because of insecurity in the country. Boko Haram, all these jihadists, all these bandits. Yeah, so you can track and not, even though they have not used it effectively as we expect, but it has implications for security. That is why the discussion between the ministers of Interior and Digital Economy should be very swift, and they should take measures to protect people's data. The other side to it is that people will be discouraged when you come and register this, go and register that, and you're moving forward. people will therefore drag. And of course, so it has security dimensions, economic dimensions, personal safety dimensions. So it's serious. And that is why they should move swiftly and find a solution expeditiously. Protect the data so that, incidentally, these things online, they seem real. They seem real. It's not a joke. It's not that somebody just playing pranks. Yeah. And that is why the two ministers must, even the presidency should, also wade in, assist them so that people's data can be protected and all of the negative consequences
let's hope they're able to do that themselves. Yes. They call the president to everything. Let's hope they're able to do it. I think there's a cultural issue we have here. It appears as if it is only people who steal these numbers know the value of it. In the sense that the people selling it, they're selling it for 100 naira. They don't know how valuable the thing is, or it's not valued at such a premium price. It's not placed on it. And perhaps the custodians do not understand it very well. So we need to, we need a sort of a cultural orientation to understand the importance of this data. Unfortunately, contrary to what Mr. Aworawo said, people will drag their leg. They've always dragged their foot to go and register. The thing is that people have registered because they've been forced to. Mm-hmm. By instinct, Nigerians have never been happy to register any of these things. It's because they were coerced into doing it. And the point here is that it is the duty of those who coerce people to register for it, to secure it. I think head should roll somewhere. It is not. I started by saying we need to educate and reform people, but I also think that those in charge of it, somebody has dropped the ball. Mm-hmm. And the best way is to go and find out who was in charge of it, because in any organization where you are, from your school to anywhere, if you're in charge of data, one of the things you sign is that you promise to protect it well. In various ways, in some countries, for example, once you register, they promote you to a certain position in any organization, I repeat, from school institutions, that you're in charge of data, they train you on how to protect data, and then you sign that you're going to be in charge of it. I can't imagine that the people in charge of this data in Nigeria are not aware of such, especially given the cost of doing this. So I think the right thing for government to do should be three. Number one is to go into more educating with the people about the importance of data. Two, investigate those who are in charge of this and see who dropped the ball, penalize them where possible so that others will not do it in the future. And three, make sure that we put things in place that impedes this happening in the future.
Thank you.
Well,
I'll start
Yemi.
with, I wanted to say something to a query that I got. Last week when we talked about Kenya, I did express my pride in the young people in Kenya speaking up for what they believe and being willing to make the sacrifices. Shot at Parliament, President stepped back, and they're now planning another week of just making their point, as Professor Kila said, that this is what we want and this is why we want it, and we're going to do it on our terms, not on yours. And it will be interesting to see how it plays out, a different model of engagement, and we wish them certainly the very best in making this a point. On data...
I'm sorry, and on Kenya, as I speak to you, I'm part of a group that is asking with some Kenyan intellectuals for inquest into the police, into the Kenyan police, to see why and how they're able to do such things. Because part of the victory is because of your philosophical that made me remember. Part of the victory of this will be to reform their police as well.
And it's interesting because there was a police officer whose brother was actually and then he resigned on the back of that.
Yes.
And I think that leaves like a great entry into sort of reforming their police, which is hanging for us on this end. But for the data one, I think what's important, yes, there's a need to let people be aware, but data and the way government is lax with data is not new. Yeah. We've talked about it from INEC and registration. We talked about it last week. You find your paper, your WAEC results, somebody's using it to sell corn or whatever it is. Yeah. I think for me, what makes this particular case very interesting is the same organization, Paradigm Initiative, flagged this in March when there was this first breach. They flagged, not only issued a statement and wrote letters that showed this. There was no response from the Ministry of Digital Economy, from the Ministry of Interior, from NIMSI, silence. So it was now that it happened again and they were able to buy this and they now sued the relevant bodies that everybody is now in a bit of a flurry. NIMSI is still in denial, but Ministry of Interior and as the promo said, the Ministry of the Digital Economy is now speaking. Two things. One, and I would say that this definitely must be investigated to show that we take it seriously.
Exactly.
We cannot say that we take it seriously
and not do
nobody's
anything.
penalized for it. That's one. Two, NIMSI also needs to see itself more than just a data collector. Thank you. And the person who was in charge is not new to collecting data. I think she collected data. She was in charge of APC's database or something, if I'm not mistaken. That we can't, at some point in time, not recently, but we can't treat, and that's why it's in the Ministry of Interior, because we're treating it as a national asset that needs security. But then, and this also shows a bit of the complications around how we see data. It's under the Ministry of Interior, but sitting in the Secretary to Government, the SGF's office in the presidency. So all that is just saying it's important, but we're not treating it like it's important. Meanwhile, if it's perhaps under the Ministry in the digital economy, we're then using it as data should be used. We can also still protect it, but it tells us as a country that we're using data to drive our digital economy, as that should be. And then, as I understand, the Data Protection Commission currently has zero budget. So how do you want data to be protected? By a commission that you've set up that has no money, or you want it to be independent enough to be able to hold people accountable to do their jobs. So there's certainly
structural issues there.
Exactly, but there are also very specific things that can be done that will communicate very clearly that we've seen this thing, we've taken it seriously, and to respond, we've investigated, found people guilty, and prosecuted them. We've strengthened the Data Protection Commission. And lastly, this one that we discussed last week, where we have a card that has your NIMS NIN number, it's also a credit or debit card and all of that, that we should stop any alignment of cards or whatever and just pause it.
Yeah, they call it 3-in-1 card.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just pause it, as I said again last week, until we are sure that we can protect the data. Why are you laughing?
Until we're sure that we can protect
the data of Nigeria.
The data of Nigeria. You don't want trouble to happen. Go ahead.
No, I don't understand. Why are you laughing?
No, because of the way you're saying it.
You're
prepping us for as if it's disaster
they
were walking ourselves into.
But you know.
Trouble for two.
But you know.
You're prepping the whole country.
No, but the thing is, and I'm saying that there are very simple things that can be done. While you're investigating, say, announce that you've paused 3-in-1, announce that you've given the Data Commission money. Would that not communicate that you're serious? And then the NIMSI woman should come to her rise and speak very intelligently and boldly around the things she's put in place in her commission to ensure that the data of Nigerians are not protected.
She should come.
She should.
You know,
I don't know.
I'm just she's watching.
I'm telling her
she should
now.
come.
Don't ask her to list the number of things she has done.
No, but I think it's important. No, you're very right. Because I think it's important, because what NIMSI has done is NIMSI has been evasive. NIMSI issued a statement saying, no, your data is protected. However, these 6 websites sell data. Yeah. So I don't understand how in one vein you are saying your data is protected, then you list websites that's selling the data of Nigerians.
These are the thieves of the goods that were not stolen.
Exactly. Precisely. So she should come on her rise and speak about what she's doing and why her ministry or commission is constantly under fire.
Okay. I'm sure the Director General of NIMSI,
I forget her name, but
I hope she will find the courage to come here and explain to Nigerians and the entire world what monkey business they are doing in NIMSI. Thank you very much, Yemi Adamolekun. Thank you, Professor Anthony Kila. Thank you, Professor Aworawo of the University of Lagos.